Good morning, good morning. I'm your host, Derrick Chevalier. Welcome to the CCN show. This morning we're going to talk about the DNC and related issues there, and my guest is John Frykenberg. Thanks so much for joining us. Glad you're here.
Thank you for inviting me, Derrick.
Privilege.
Pleasure to be here.
So let's get right into this. What is your opinion about both the quality and quantity of evidence surrounding Russia's possible involvement in the election?
There seems to be some strong evidence that there was about 30,000 emails that were acquired by WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, from whatever sources he got them from. On the other side of that, however, there's even stronger evidence that Hilary Clinton had 33,000 emails that were never turned over, that were bleach-bitted and BlackBerry phones smashed up with hammers. So who's to say?
Right. So the issue is you don't believe that the Russians were involved directly in specifically supporting Hillary, just on their own for whatever reasons. So you think there's like 30,000 emails that might point to that, but also 30,000 emails that suggest that Hillary was involved in also.
There's no question about it. And I would go beyond that to say, as President Obama said, given the decentralization of our voting systems in the Electoral College in this country, no matter how much influence the Russians had through Facebook or anything else, it would be virtually impossible for them to swing an election. And President Obama is on record as saying that.
Sure. So I guess the point is not whether or not the election was swung, but whether or not a foreign government was attempting to swing the election. And I guess the evidence is that, yes, they were, but no, they didn't necessarily swing the outcome of the election.
Yeah, they absolutely did not swing the outcome of the election. And certainly their involvement is no different than the United States' involvement in elections for the last half century.
Sure.
Because we're up to it in our necks. So to point at the Russians very moralistically and say, how evil they are, the United States has been doing this for a very long time.
Well, let me ask this question. I saw recently a comparison of the Watergate period, and there was actually a period in which they were quoting a lot of the things that were being said by the Nixon White House and all those Ehrlichman, Haldeman, John Dean, and others that sounded verbatim. They compared that to what's coming out of the White House now. There is no problem. It's all fake. There's almost verbatim. What's your take on whether or not that comparison suggests that at least we ought to be looking to see that we don't have a repeat of what happened during that period?
I don't think there's any problem with our looking as much as we want to. We should see the evidence. We should have an entitlement to that. But evidence is clearly being hidden. There's no question. In terms of the investigation of the DNC, the Democratic Party refused to turn over their server to the FBI, which seems to me to be preposterous.
Right.
How could they get away with that kind of thing? So people are playing shell games and they're hiding evidence. And the losers are the American public and the federal government, because we're losing faith. And we're losing faith in our government rapidly, whether it's the IRS or whether it's the Department of Justice, whether it's the FBI, and it's very sad. It's a sad chapter in American history.
I agree. Would you agree that whatever the evidence points to regarding Trump should be equally applied to whatever evidence there is about the DNC, and that both ought to be brought to justice equally in order to preserve our union?
I absolutely agree with that.
So,
and in fact, we've seen criminal charges filed against the top two people in the FBI in terms of both Comey and McCabe within the last week. So the wheels of justice are moving very slowly, but we're beginning to see the deep state coming apart, and the the American people have a right to know what's going on.
And I think that's what I respect so much about you, John. We don't agree on everything, but I think the idea is that we'd like to see an examination that was clearly looking at the facts and clearly aimed at getting to the bottom of the truth, as close as we can do that.
Absolutely, which is one of the discouraging things about this new DNC lawsuit filed against WikiLeaks and Russia and Trump and all of the people associated with him, when they know very well that Special Prosecutor Mueller has not come up with anything in over a year. Yes, they've indicted some people, but certainly nothing to do with Trump, and they've stated so publicly. Even Comey has come out and said, you know, that the president is not implicated or involved in this at all. So how long is it going to go on, and how much damage is going to be done to the United States?
I think those are great questions, but I also think this, to say that Comey has found nothing is not actually true, John. What we can say is we don't know what he's found. He has been absent. He hasn't said anything himself. So we'll see, and I'm there with you on that. We'll have to look at this again. Thank you for joining us this morning. John's going to come back. We got lots more to talk about. Glad you were with us.